The playoff bye, the berth into semi-finals. Whoever wins here books their ticket to Copenhagen, guarantees they will appear on our roadshow offline finals, either third place or the final. And obviously the loser will be in the quarters. Third place, they will be facing off against Roccat. So Nisqy on the analyst desk is watching eagerly to see who his next opponents will be. The next two bands, Galio and now Xerxe. What does that set us up for first pick priority?
Well, you would initially think that Varus becomes the next highest priority in terms of AD carries. You have Caitlyn, Xerxe, and Varus already vying for those top spots, but Splyce could look to early rotate a jungler if they wanted to. We've seen a lot of proficiency from Xerxe on the Zac, but looks like they're going for the Tristana, expecting Hjärnan to perhaps go for the Varus. And what we can say for sure is it has been one of his go-to AD carries, even though he hasn't had the most success with it during the regular season.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be the case, and that Tristana worked wonders for Reckless in the previous game against Schalke. And we'll see what it's going to do for Kobbe. Of course, on the other side, G2 eSports locking in the Camille as well as the Olaf. The Olaf has been in the ban pool so much in 8.5. He's a hella strong jungler.
Let's think back to G2 versus H2K. Yes, they lost that game, but the early game lead that they got from Jankos' absolutely ridiculous pressure on this champion is just terrifying. I think G2 have locked in two big comfort picks for themselves, but Splyce, they're doing the same.
I'm so scared already for G2. Did you see what Xerxe did on Zac earlier today? Did you see how he dismantled Roccat? Just get like everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And Splyce, they're going to have the same combination. Nisqy going to lock in the Ryze once again. So a lot of comfort picks, a lot of power. I like the options that are already on the table for Splyce.
Now, I feel like G2 will look to lock in their mid laner here, allow Splyce to ban away AD carries, and then bring out the surprise Sivir. I'm looking at the composition that they've drafted themselves right now, and you have carry in the top, carry in the mid, and you've kind of got an early game jungler in the form of the Olaf. You do not need Hjärnan to be that big carry. He can be a fallback, wave-clearing late-game tool, and Sivir typically does well into the Tristana, along with being a staple pick for Hjärnan himself. I feel like that is the strategy that they're going for, and the question is, will Splyce read it in advance?
Well, that's the question. We've seen a lot of AD carries banned today, in fact, throughout the course of, our last day of regular scheduled games. And of course, Alistar's already removed from the pool, so Kasing, at least one of his options is gone.
But that Alistar ban is really important because it's also considered one of the answers to Sivir too, because you can only spell shield one of the Q and E combo, which means that it's very easy to lock her down during the laning phase. Immediately, there's the response from Splyce. They read the play in advance. They're not going to give Hjärnan that comfort.
Yeah, but then what's the next question? Where do G2 go
I don't know, I set up everything in the basket. Trevor. I was really hoping that they would nail that one, but unfortunately Splyce banned it away.
But the thing is, they're reading the same playbook. They're thinking the same way. Now, is there something else that Hjärnan can pull a rabbit out the hat with? I mean, Varus is still open and available if he wants to go that route. Cho'Gath is going to be the next ban, denying that option for Odoamne. Now, Swain has been a bit of flavor of the week. Obviously buffed on 8.5. Been picked several times, saw him a couple times today. Still available. Do you risk running that into Camille? Is it too risky?
I think it's a little too risky. Swain typically has a bit of a rough laning phase because he relies a lot on items and he's fairly short range, which means you want to put him up against tanks where he can provide a similar role to Vladimir and just poke out, sustain, and just be a nuisance. Putting him into a Camille would really give him a much harder laning phase, and for Odo, I feel like you want to go for the safer route. Go for this double tank comp. I feel like Gnar may be a good option. It can be a little bit rough, but I think that in terms of the laning phase, it should be a fine and safe option for Splyce.
Well, Odoamne has played that Gnar once the split already. The support for G2 eSports is locked in. It is Wadid's Thresh. That'll be the second time we see that pick, but very different type of team composition than what I've been seeing all weekend. Obviously, the fact that Olaf has been banned is a big reason for that. And over on the other side, Braum locked in for Kasing. So their top laner will be revealed shortly, and that will round out the potential double tank composition. Be a front line for Trist as well as Ryze.
When you talk about front line, right now my biggest concern for G2 is that they don't really have one. Olaf will be building full tank, but he's surprisingly easier to ignore in the later stages of the game. And interestingly, Splyce going to put their trust once again in Odo, go for a triple threat comp. I feel like Vladimir throughout the regular season, it's actually been a pretty strong pick for the Splyce top laner, and he's more than confident to bring the challenge up to Wunder.
Question now for you, Vedius. Will it be as easy for Splyce to tower dive a Camille
no.
as it was to tower dive the Gangplank? Because it was the Zach Vladimir 7 hours ago that set us on this collision course tiebreaker. Because, of course, it was Splyce that won their game and G2 that won their game and allowed us to get here.
I feel like if Splyce are going to look to camp anywhere, it will be bot. Varus and Thresh, not the safest in terms of 2v2, a lot of all-in power, and I expect them to have the early priority. But you think about Vladimir and Zach, and what makes them such good divers is how easy it is for them to lose that tower aggro. They soak up a lot of damage, they have a lot of sustain, and just the all-in power. Think of how easy it is for all 5 of these players to get towards the bottom side of the map. I think they've identified Hjärnan and Wadid as a potential weakness. If G2 do not properly play around them, they've been able to be exposed by many of the teams. And I think Splyce's game plan is, let's kill Hjärnan, let's kill Wadid, and let's snowball the game.
And of course, on the G2 eSports side, what is the response? I know Camille's going to become that dueling split pusher later, and Olaf is a menace, but the synergy doesn't quite add up as beautifully as I see on the Splyce side.
Well, when you look at Olaf, one of his greatest strengths is his early clear speed and early dueling power. I want to see G2 utilize the fact that their bottom lane has strong early level push, and I want to see if they can take advantage of the fact that Jankos is playing this Olaf and can look to invade towards the bottom side, get control over the bottom half of the map, and deny these early dives that Splyce may be looking to set up.
Oh man, it sounds like a whole lot of things that he has to do, Vedius, and that means there's going to be weight on Jankos' shoulder. Ladies and gentlemen, for the final time in the regular season, it is Splyce taking on G2 Esports. This is the battle for the bye. Second place, the guaranteed trip to Copenhagen, and skipping quarterfinals altogether. That's what they're playing for. And the bonus that both teams have earned themselves, no matter what happens, they will be on the opposite side of the bracket to Fnatic.
And for Splyce as an organization, they've been in playoff multiple times. This is nothing new for them, but to be fighting G2 for an opportunity to get a direct pass into the semifinal, I'm sure the organization could not ask for more from this talented roster.
Definitely the case. Some question marks from the beginning of the split, and those questions have been very, very answered. And you know what, Vedius? We've been saying it all weekend long. Every game counts, and even this one does.
Yes, it does. And I just want to say that, you know, following that point we were just talking about, I feel like Splyce has really been one of the success stories of this split. When you think about all the roster changes that have happened in the EU LCS, all the new rookies that we had, all the veterans paired up with a couple of new players, some players who have a history of falling behind, Splyce was not really considered one of the teams that would rise to the top of the challenge. Everyone thought they'd be a middle-of-the-pack team, expectations weren't that high, but when you look at the cases of Schalke, you look in the instances of Misfits, where they made changes and have faltered, it is Splyce that have worked through their issues and have now got to a point where they're fighting for top 2 in Europe.
Oh, I can't wait to see what happens when we get to the best of series, but still a week away, maybe 2 for one of these teams. As it stands now, no early game shenanigans. I'm looking at the jungler's starting positions. Jankos obviously going to be clearing out from his blue buff, working his way up. We'll see whether or not he can counter gank or react well enough.
It's quite interesting here that Xerxe chose to do his red, instantly go up to blue, and then do Braum. One of the cool things that you can do on Zach is bring both these jungle camps together and fairly efficiently clear those out. This may mean that he's looking for an early gank topside, but more so he may be just going for a full clear throughout his jungle. Try and get that level 4, expecting Jankos to perhaps invade towards that bottom side. As you can already see, a ward going down. So G2 preempting a possible gank towards the bottom half of the map. But as we expected, early push in the favor of Hjärnan and Wadid with the Thresh and Varus that they do have.
Yeah, doing a good job keeping Kobbe and Kasing just a little bit shut down and pushed into their base. Looking across the keystones, 2 unsealed spellbooks on the side of Splyce, Odoamne and Nisqy. None on the side of G2. And I'll keep my eyes on that minimap. Jankos is now up at his red buff. Xerxe going again for a very quick clear. He's inside the Raptor camp. And we'll get close to that level 4 very soon.
I want to take a quick opportunity to talk a little more about this Wunder Odoamne matchup. It is a bit of a mainstay matchup in the European LCS. These two top laners have been battling for a very long time. And for Camille versus Vladimir, you kind of have a duo carry setup where Wunder is a little bit more of a split-pushing threat, but as a Camille, her role can provide value in terms of team fighting. But during the laning phase, what you'll see is, because she's melee, she will experience a decent amount of harass from the Vladimir. Fortunately, she has the shield to help, but we got a gank.
Oh, this is
not.
problem. One-on-one, summoning heal already used. The Sand Soldiers are helping out. A good overload onto PerkZ, but PerkZ clearly winning out that trade. Exhaust for heal used. Now up in the top lane, tactical sweep comes out from Wunder. The passive will block some damage from Odo, but Odo still ends up coming out, I think, better in that situation.
Looks like it. The Vladimir does have that sustained advantage, but I preemptively said that I was expecting a gank in the middle lane because I wasn't expecting PerkZ to just go in 1 versus 1. It feels like that after his poor performance last week and rectifying it arguably with today's Sion game, he's looking to be a little bit more like the PerkZ that we're used to seeing. That carry threat, the guy that can build his own lane lead.
And we'll see what Nisqy shows up. You know, the last time Nisqy played PerkZ, Nisqy was playing Galio, Xerxe was playing Ivern, and he had a very good performance. And this time round, Xerxe's on the Zac. It is going to be an early top gank. Not quite as early as maybe we were anticipating with the jungle clear. Wunder, flash is available to him. Jankos and Wadid are waiting in the mid lane. All right, it's the race for first blood. No flash for Nisqy. He's an easy target. Xerxe's charging up the slingshot, jumps in, interrupts the hook shot, pulls Wunder backwards, and Splyce get first blood.
Successful first kill there for Splyce up in the top lane. I wasn't expecting that many early ganks, but Xerxe and Odo seem to have developed a new friendship over the last few weeks, and they are setting up Odoamne for success.
The roaring Romanian duo stepping up when it counts. Zac and Vladimir, they did it earlier today. And once again, they've started Splyce with a lead.
They saw what Wunder did yesterday against the Unicorns of Love, and they're saying, you know what? We're not going to allow you to do that again. Wunder, he had set up vision in the river. Didn't see the path that Xerxe had took, because look at the double control wards you can see down towards the bottom half of the map. They're still there, allowed him to take that creative path behind, set it for a nice easy gank up top.
And of course, I did say the roaring Romanian duo. Take a look at the stats from earlier today. K plus A at 15, 5
wow.
and 6.
At 15, that's quite high.
Just a small CS advantage for Odoamne. A mere 52/S.
And look at that jungle proximity. Man, these two had a lot of criticism at the very start of the split, but the amount of growth that they have made has turned into monumental success. But now we're looking at Jankos to provide that same kind of success. Can he work with PerkZ in order to find those opportunities, given that at the very start of the split, these two were the players that we were looking at to be the big playmaker?
Absolutely the case. And, you know, in Picks and Bans, I asked the question if the Zac Vladimir could tower dive Camille. They didn't need a tower.
They did.
Like they could just do it in the lane. Obviously, we kept our focus on the top because that's where some of the action of the trading has been. But I want to bring our attention down to the bottom lane. Hjärnan and Wadid are still farming up a small advantage, plus 10 CS at 6 minutes. And Hjärnan on the Varus, some question marks and some pressure on this bottom lane. If Splyce play around him to try and shut down Hjärnan, a lot of targeted bans during the draft, and now is a fairly low mobility champion against Zac, Ryze, Trist. He's going to be pretty juicy targets.
Yes, he certainly will be, and the reason why we have these stats on board is because when G2 do play around Hjärnan, you can see how much of an impact he truly can have. We got to talk about the impact in top.
The impact is Jankos gets a kill with the help of Wunder.
And I think he's going to be pretty happy with that. Jankos wants to return the favor. Former teammate Odoamne now feeling the pressure from Jankos. Off to a good start. This is what you need on the Olaf. Getting those early kills will definitely help out G2, as the gold is still very, very close.
Even in gold, pretty much even in CS. It's only the 10 CS between 80 carries that matters. And what I love about replays like this, it's just get run down, just get dunked, basically.
Yep. I wonder what happened to Odo's pool there. I wonder if it was on cooldown from perhaps a bit of an earlier trade. Regardless, river control was gained. Now Xerxe looking for a gank in bottom.
Party in the bottom lane. Interrupt onto Hjärnan. Let's bounce. Not available just yet. It was used, in fact. I take it back. Wadid's now going to be the target as Kobbe's already got the first kill. Here comes Jankos. He's flashed forward. Manages to pop the cell division. Buster shot will knock him backwards as now the bloblets are being targeted. They're squiggling and wobbling and teleporting together. Xerxe's now going to bounce away to safety. Teleport gets channeled and finished by Nisqy, and he instantly instantly summoning heals to back away. Splyce get the kill.
Yes, now Splyce make the gank bottom happen. Nisqy still doesn't have flash, but it doesn't matter. It ends up saving his jungler's life, so I call worth on that one. Splyce able to pull off 2 successful ganks now as Jankos is the one falling
I
behind.
really like the proactive plays. I like the fact that 8 minutes in, we've seen several ganks, we've seen teleports. Both teams are playing to win and utilizing the early game tools available to their team composition.
And that was just so good from Xerxe. He saw that the AD carry was about to take the lantern, and he took advantage of it, grabbed Hjärnan, threw him into Wadid, and said, hey, listen, I know you want to take that lantern, let me speed the process up for you, and then drag you back into my team, allowing Splyce to get that kill down in the 2 versus 2. The Ignite should have got the kill. There's the heal.
Close.
Fantastic. And now, where's Xerxe? Back him in the top lane, looking for another game.
Dun, 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 dun. 44% jungle proximity earlier today. Xerxe spent a lot of time around his laners, because he made it very, very useful and effective. 6 kills plus assists by 15 minutes. G2 eSports putting up a significantly stronger resistance this time round than what Giants did.
And now we got to kind of take a look back at how the early game has gone, because we talked a lot about expectations for this game, QuickShot. We said for Jankos, he wants to try and stop some of this early pressure from Xerxe, and so far he's not done that. Not been able to do that.
Nope.
We've seen successful kills in top, we've seen successful kills in bot, and that has allowed a healthy CS advantage to be built by Odo and an equalization for Kobbe. And on this Tristana, with the recent nerfs, that is very important.
Yeah, have you ever played Checkers, the board game?
I have played it.
And you take turns just stealing one another's pieces.
Yes.
That's what's happening, because look, Jankos is not in place to counter gank. Xerxe is like, it was my turn, good old chap.
And now Jankos, though,
And Jankos
he's
says,
looking
now
to make
it's
his
my
own
turn.
move.
And take a look, there's the precision protocol as well as the Hextech ultimatum. It's dodged by the Sanguine Pool. Odoamne manages to survive a few seconds longer. Dancing, ring around the
Oh my
rosy.
God, he
The
gets
tower
out.
survives. The timing of that W. And good sir, now that Jankos is done, it's Xerxe's opportunity. Wadid and Hjärnan realize that they've backed away from the tower.
Oh my word, that was so good from Odoamne, pooling at just the right time to get out of the Hextech ultimatum, allowing him to escape underneath the tower, utilizing the heal back from his ultimate as well. Perfect play.
And after all of these early plays and seeing the draft, I want you guys at home to predict who will win. Kobbe is going to get some damage down onto this tower. Who takes second seed? Who takes third? Hashtag every game counts. Log those votes, and maybe we'll get to read some of them a little later. But as it stands, there's not a lot separating these teams, and they keep trading blow for blow. Xerxe is going to start off this dragon. There's great vision control in the river, and here's a replay.
So that pool right there, fantastic timing from Odo, and you'd think, oh, they can dive this, but smartly from Jankos, he recognized, okay, I can only tank a little bit more, I'm getting out. Wunder has cooldown, so he can't commit, and they result in a no-kill topside. And I think this is fantastic. I'm so happy this tiebreaker happened, because Deficio, he got a bit of flack. He went on the Euphoria podcast, he said, I think Xerxe is the best jungler in Europe right now. And so many fans lashed out, they said, no, it's Jankos. Jankos is the stronger jungler. Jankos deserves to be the title of the king jungler in Europe. Now the two are going up against each other, and Xerxe is schooling Jankos.
002, Cinderhulk picked up, utilizing the Zac kit flawlessly.
Oh, so well.
I don't think Xerxe has missed a stretching strike all day long.
And look, he's going for another gank. Hjärnan doesn't have his flash up yet.
Dun, 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 dun. Stretching strike connects. Hjärnan gets dunked. Let's Bounce comes backwards. Easily donated to Kobbe. And Splyce just making it look easier. Tower first blood available as well.
And this was the Splyce game plan. Shut down the bottom lane. Attack the weakness of G2, which is Hjärnan and Wadid. Narrow down that champion pool and look to punish it.
But Vedius, it is still a game of checkers. My turn, your turn. My turn, your turn. After tower in the bottom goes down, all of a sudden G2 are pushing mid. Now this might be the first time we have a bit of a confrontation both directions. PerkZ with a beautiful Emperor's Divide sends Odoamne into the back and punishes Odo's roam, as well as G2 getting the mid tower. So Again, it's just the plays and counter plays.
Oh, yes.
But we haven't seen big team fights or skirmishes. What do we expect then?
Blood, Trevor. Blood for the Blood God and the fans of the EU LCS. I'm expecting nothing but action between these two teams. They are just butting heads constantly, and while Xerxe is making so many successful ganks happen, look at who's getting the kills for G2. The Olaf sitting at 1-0-1 right now. The Emperor of G2, PerkZ, in the middle lane, secures himself the first kill and takes the mid-tier 1. This is going to make it a lot easier for G2 to get that deeper vision in and keep track of where Xerxe is trying to find these picks.
Well, this is Odoamne coming around.
Now, they spotted him on that control ward, and they saw an opportunity because they knew his flash was still down. PerkZ goes in, has the support of Wadid and Jankos, and they tried to give PerkZ the kill because they want to get this Azir as fed as possible. He is the late-game insurance that G2 can look to rely on.
Yeah, and of course, G2, they need PerkZ to step up. We looked a little bit at some of the mistakes that PerkZ has made, maybe trying too hard to carry at times, and cannot afford those missteps. Cannot afford to give away anything to Splyce. Because when I look at the two team compositions, I really like what Splyce can do later in the game. I like the synergies in their team composition, and of course there is scaling on G2's side.
But, you know, we've talked about
different.
We've talked about almost every player.
We have.
Right? Except the bottom lane of Splyce. And it's funny because for so long they were our main narrative for this team. You know, you got to rely on Kobbe. He's the guy that really is the only consistent performer. And now he's 2-0-0 on Tristana.
Yeah.
One of the strongest mid to late game champions still in the game. Even after the early game nerf she's received, as long as she gets through laning phase, she can still be that big carry. We already saw it from Reckless in the last game. And Kobbe, he is a phenomenal team fighter. So coming into these fights, it's really going to be about how much input he can have versus the positioning and playmaking that PerkZ can make in these later game fights.
Well, PerkZ, the man you just started talking about, gets caught once again by that point-and-click Q of Xerxe. Unfortunately, the Sun just starts wrecking him, and Xerxe's cell division is popped. He definitely bit off more than he could chew. Nisqy's now taking damage from that Sun Disc, and PerkZ is able to turn that one around without doing a whole lot. His passive ruining Splyce's engage. And the question that I have, while we know what Kobbe can do, while we've seen the level he can perform at, now Nisqy also is in my eyesight. You know, Nisqy has had ups and downs throughout the course of the split, and I think I prefer him on the supportive champions. I think I prefer him on the utility mids.
Double TP, Trevor.
Let's see what he can do on Ryze, because one of the teleports is coming down. PerkZ is already going to get some damage. That's a very good flash from Nisqy. He's got it this time, but he's caught between all of G2 eSports. The Lantern, and the response was great. Odo decides to jump back in. He's already used the Hemo Blade, the re-engage from Splyce. The fight is on. Odo's kept 4 members busy.
Odo's down.
He's on a killing spree. Now Kobbe's running for his life. Let's Bounce comes down, and while it sends G2 into the jungle, there's not enough damage. There's not enough support, and G2 are winning the fight. They're taking the lead. Defensive flash from Kobbe. The Unbreakable is buying some time. Hjärnan's rejoined the fight. Now Kasing is running for his life. He gets run down. G2 get the 4th kill of the engage.
You wanted to know what will happen when these two teams finally butt heads, and it turns out G2 are the ones to take the early lead. Huge team fight win initially set up by the double teleport from Splyce. They wanted to lock down Hjärnan, but a good lantern from Wadid keeps his AD alive. Now Nisqy is the one that ends up getting collapsed upon. Very quick kill for G2, and they kind of want to disengage, but Odo, he has other plans. Dives in, gets a 2-man ultimate off, and it becomes a battle on 2 fronts. Who can kill the front line first? Turns out, G2 win that one as well. Odo drops, Xerxe does what he can to escape, and then the chase continues for G2.
I mean, you look at the damage options for G2. Camille, Olaf, Azir, Varus, and they were going up against what? A Vlad and Trist? So 4 damage dealers versus 2, and you saw the impact of the fight. PerkZ is not done yet. Sanguine Pool comes up. The Sand Soldiers are sent forward. Ooh. But the last strike, just not enough to come out. G2 have a 2,000 gold lead, and they're about to take their 3rd tower of the game.
Yeah, like Wadid could have committed a little harder there with the Flay. That would have been enough to lock down the top laner of Splyce and secure another kill, but he will get away. G2 going to be more than happy to take themselves the tower. Infernal Drake is on the board. Wouldn't be surprised to see G2 put a little bit more focus over there.
All right, the game pace is now a little bit more about the map. Splyce will finally get their 2nd tower, and it's the top that is dropped. G2 will get their first dragon of the game. It is the Infernal, as you mentioned. And the item spikes are starting to come in. Obviously, 1 and 2 items being worked towards. Rage Blade for Hjärnan, Triforce for Wunder. Definitely going to be a little more impactful than just a Proto Belt and Shiv plus Pickaxe on the side of Splyce.
Yeah, G2 definitely have hit some pretty significant power spikes, and they should be more than happy to fight right now, especially with the amount of control that they have over the map. No real objective on the board right now, and Baron a little too early to be looking at whether or not they can truly contest. So we'll just see a lot of farming for the time being right now, unfortunately, QuickShot. But I imagine the pace will pick up once the big purple worm respawns.
Who do you think is going to be stronger around those objectives?
For now, G2.
Right.
But as the game progresses, again, it's kind of like you have a lot of scaling options on both sides. You're looking at Tristana and the Vladimir, and typically Ryze kind of falls off in the late game because you have such a short range, it gets difficult to get onto the backline threat. But when you look at the roster of G2, there are actually a lot of carries, and when Wunder jumps in, you can do a lot of damage on the Ryze to lock him down and kind of burst him out of the fight.
I mean, that's actually a good thing for Nisqy. G2 will be running at him, so
Very true.
It's easier to land your overloads when you have threats in your face. The question is, will Splyce be able to mitigate those threats? That's what we're going to be looking at. All right, 20 minutes on the clock, very shortly. It's still that 2,000 gold lead in favor of the 4-time EU LCS champions. Earlier this game, we said the Emperor of G2, the Emperor of mid lane. Hell, it's the Emperor of EU LCS. 4 titles consecutive for PerkZ. One of the most challenging regular seasons that he and his team have faced. Obviously, the team was rebuilt. 4 new players around it, new coaching staff. And for PerkZ, the real questions are starting now. Now that they're locked, second, third, now that they're avoiding Fnatic, can PerkZ lead his team to another final?
Well, that's going to be one of the big questions. Their first step will be to take down Splyce, get that buy. And in order to do that, they're going to have to regain control around the Baron. It has, in fact, respawned. Splyce have full river control towards the top side. You can see 2 control wards invested for the time being. They have control over the scuttle as well. And this means that G2 just kind of throwing axes in, being very hesitant to hard commit, waiting to gain mid priority. Have an idea of where Vladimir is on the map. Have Hjärnan push in towards the top side, and then they can look to move in through the river.
Well, for Splyce, very different game from earlier today. Obviously, much stronger opponent than Giants. And they're playing from behind.
Whoa!
20 minutes and 45 seconds.
Okay.
G2 eSports, they've started off the Baron.
It's not here.
Teleport's available for Odoamne and Splyce. They're aware Winter's Bite will tag onto PerkZ. Teleport starts to get channeled. Baron's low, 2,500. There's already in the pit. The challenge is there. Unstoppable. It's not being reset. Baron's stolen. No, it's secured by G2. But in the ensuing fight, Wunder is trying to lock down Kobbe. Kobbe's getting pulled away. All of a sudden, Xerxe is already down. No Odo. First to run for his life. G2 eSports send their regards. Get themselves a double kill. Get themselves a Baron. And they're getting themselves more kills.
G2 have no fear. They go for the 50-50 Baron. They go for the ensuing fight. And they just are relentless. They rip through Splyce. And they get everything they could possibly want.
20 minutes and 45 seconds on the clock. G2 used the mid-game power of their team composition to take another tower, another objective. And that 7,000 gold lead, I think the Ocelot buff is paying off.
It certainly seems to be. G2, oh, they are mad. They're tired of being criticized. They're tired of having bad weeks. They want to end this week on a 3-0, and this is how they are going to do it. Going for the 50-50 is such a big gamble. They stop hitting the Baron, all turn onto Xerxe, take him out of the fight, and then Xerxe even... Oh no, he doesn't throw the smite out. The Olaf secures it instead. Then Splyce, they're just forced to retreat. They don't have the engage tool anymore. They can't reliably follow up, and they're just forced to split apart. What confidence from G2 knowing that they are stronger at this point in the game and just saying, you know what, what's the best way for us to start a fight?
Yep.
Baron.
Force Splyce's hand, make them come to us.
Exactly that.
And then G2 didn't falter, they made the right call. They stuck together on the Baron, then they instantly peeled, and then they press their advantage.
I just love seeing that kind of confidence. So many teams in Europe have been criticized for not being able to use things like the Rage Bay power spike, use the Ezreal power spike. And I feel like this is one of the best examples of we've seen like, hey, we have an item, we know we're stronger than our opposition, let's fight, let's go. G2 execute extremely well.
Vedius, we've had some very one-sided games today. Several of them have been very stompy, and it's looking like another one. 8,000 gold lead. G2 are already breaking open the base. Wunder's coasting in the mid lane. 4 members of G2 eSports are dealing with the bottom lane. And despite Odoamne doing his best to slow down Wunder, it is a huge advantage for G2 eSports. They are on the cusp, on the precipice of saving their regular split. Ocelot agreeing with the chants from the crowd. Let's go G2. But more importantly, 2 days ago, G2 could have been knocked out of playoffs.
Yes.
And 10 regular season games later and 1 tiebreaker, G2 are locking a quarterfinal bye, guaranteeing a semifinal, guaranteeing a spot in Copenhagen, and avoiding Fnatic as well.
Ooh.
A
great week this would be for G2.
I tweeted that. This tiebreaker, both of these teams will avoid Fnatic. The G2 eSports Twitter account replied, actually, Trevor, Fnatic will now avoid G2 in the bracket. I appreciated the cheekiness.
Well, G2 have still got to end the game. And to be fair, G2 have thrown larger leads before. So before things are over yet, let's see what Splyce can do. They're going to have to concede the bottom inhibitor, as we just saw. They'll have to lose a couple more towers as well. The gold at this point would be seen as insurmountable. But you have the Tristana and the Vladimir late game insurance. How effectively can Splyce stall? How long can they wait until they get to these item spikes where they can really look to challenge G2 in a fight?
Well, the Infinity Edge has recently been picked up for Kobbe, and there's an Oblivion Orb for Odoamne, just a little bit of instantaneous power. And obviously, we've got the Zac engage, the Ryze engage, if G2 overstep their bounds. And the wave clear is very strong. I don't see a banner of command on the side of G2, so Nisqy and Kobbe can do a very good job of pushing those waves back. But there needs to be 10, 15 minutes of defense. This now becomes PvE in some ways. Avoid the enemy champions and just play and take what you can from Summoner's Rift.
You know, and I threw a bit of shade at Jankos early in the game. Xerxe definitely did have his number, but 100% kill participation from the G2 jungler. His contribution in these fights has been significant.
So if Jankos were to get the opportunity to respond to your shade, what would he say to you, Vedius?
Probably throw an axe in my face and say, Bromarcia!
Tenderize your meat with that hammer of his on the skin. It's definitely something Jankos would do, no doubt in my mind.
Now G2, they're setting up for the Baron. It's not going to be spawning that soon, but it is the easiest win condition for them. They don't want to risk a dive because, as we've already identified, Splyce do have a solid team fighting composition. So G2 don't even want to give that opportunity over to them. 2 minutes now, gaining full control, steal away all the buffs, and just easily take this objective and hopefully win a fight if Splyce comes in.
I mean, you can see a couple of control wards in Splyce's jungle. This is G2 I'm talking about. Thank you, observers. G2 obviously a minute 40, gonna backspin the money, get their waves pushing and set up for this next Baron.
Yep.
Now for Splyce, Xerxe has stolen Barons in the past. There's a good comp if you can get Vlad and Zac and Tristana together in that pit. But there's no room for error, not a single mistake, because the gold difference is gigantic, the item power difference currently is gigantic. I mean, if you just compare 80 carries, Ayed, Shiv, Zeal versus Rageblade, Blade of the Rune King, and Wit's End, an entire item completed ahead. So Hjärnan is a great position right now.
Oh, he certainly is. He's going to be dishing out some serious damage in these fights. I'm looking forward to seeing if he can redeem what was a bit of a rough start for him. To his credit, he was ganked a lot. And now he is contributing much more. 10,000 gold lead in favor of G2 Baron in about 50 seconds time. And for Splyce, they just need to gain what control they can back over their jungle, but we're not giving them any leeway.
Seriously, look at that mini-map. It is completely G2 focused in the western quadrant. Control wards, zombie wards.
Every time Splyce try to get a bit of wards back, instantly clear down.
Yeah. So for G2, it's textbook play now. Yep. You know, use the lead, Don't allow them into the jungle. This is Splyce. Don't allow Splyce to challenge your vision. And once the Baron is picked up...
Yeah, watch it how quickly they clear the Baron as well, because Azir, one of the best Baron-taking mid laners in the game, with high DPS.
The on-hit Hjärnan build as well.
Very, very true. And Camille can largely just sit in the bottom lane and create pressure, forcing Splyce to split apart. And here we are. This is it. The Baron spawns. G2 looking to end the game on this play.
All right, teleport available for Wunder. No teleports on the side of Splyce. Baron started. There's not even going to be a contest here from Splyce. Nobody can get into the pit. So safe, easy, secure. And that one was just melted where it stands. The Sun Disc is going to go down shortly. In actual fact, this Sun Disc has really ruined Splyce's day. That engage about 10 minutes ago, it almost took out Splyce.
It certainly did. The fun disc for G2, one could argue. Now, let's see how much more fun Splyce can have, because they have to go up against a 11,000 gold, Baron-powered 5-0-2 PerkZ that is in a bad mood and wants to secure himself a playoff spot.
Yes, as long as he doesn't pull a corky engage like last weekend.
Yes, very true.
Where a little over-eager, you know, feeling the opportunity without the full picture. Of course, there was an invisible Xerxe that he didn't know about.
That's
so
fair.
I am being a little critical, but you need to...
when you're an emperor, you kind of have to call those things out every now and then.
Exactly, exactly. Importantly for Kobbe, he's now got the rapid fire cannon completed. Gonna need that to try and take out the minion waves. Odo's gonna use the Protobell to threaten some sort of engage, but keep your eyes on the minimap. 3-1-1 for G2 as they're using the Baron-empowered minions to push in multiple waves. The bottom inhibitor did respawn, and as it's 30 minutes on the clock, we're getting to the stage where that gold lead is slowly getting less relevant, but there's still a lot more that Splyce have to do.
It's going to be so much longer before it becomes irrelevant though, QuickShot, and you can see that from G2 as Wunder now pushing onto the Nexus tower. Splyce are being spread so thin. Here comes the desperation engage.
Okay, Xerxe with the elastic slingshot. He's going to start to target Wadid, pulls him towards the control ward. Wadid is the target as the Locket Divine Solari gets tagged down. Finally, he gets popped. Let's Bounce comes backwards. Wunder's got himself 2 inhibitors with the help of PerkZ, and the rest of G2 have stopped the fight. Now it is a 5 versus 4 Nexus tower defense. Splyce turn their attention to PerkZ. That's, of course, the Banshee's Veil pop. The Emperor's Divide comes out. Look at the Sand Soldier damage. Wunder is going to be forced to run away. Great hook shot will keep him alive. Buster shot, not going to be enough for the kill. I really thought PerkZ was going down. Summoner heal keeps him alive. Realm Warp from Nisqy will deliver the back line. Hjärnan is the target. Finally uses that stopwatch after 30 minutes on the clock. And yes, Splyce win the fight, but at the cost of their base.
Exactly that, QuickShot. G2 get everything that they want. They sacrifice the bottom lane, but it is a worthy sacrifice as G2 happily walk away with 3 inhibitors down. They still have the Baron buff, and there is a Nexus in their eyes along with a semi-final spot.
Man, it's now 11,000 gold lead. Quarterfinal bye is practically in their hands. Jankos has already made one of those Pulsar hot dogs inspired by Deficio in the Euphoria podcast. And now he's going to be booking his flight shortly to Copenhagen for semi-final. You win, you're in the finals. You lose, all of a sudden you're playing that 3rd place match. But either way, you're in the Royal Arena and you get to try some of that Danish sausage.
Now let's see how this fight kicked off. So initially, Thresh did lose his life as Splyce go for a bit of a desperate engage. Wunder and PerkZ were able to take the bottom 2 inhibitors, and then, ooh, just
so
not
close.
Quite enough damage there from Kobbe. And then Splyce said, you know what, well, we can get a little bit of revenge. Let's kill Hjärnan again. That always makes us feel good. And I'm sure while it did make them feel good for a little while, they then come back to realize that the house is burnt down.
Yep.
I don't think they can claim on the insurance this time.
No, they cannot. Let's Bounce actually gets interrupted mid-flight as Xerxe's passive is popped. He gets taken out on the back end, and despite a lot of damage onto Wunder, Kobbe is doing what he can. G2 eSports are just waiting for those double super minions. With 3 inhibitors down, it's a very easy siege. Wunder's got teleport available, so if he wants to back and join the fight, like you can see, he's doing so. Nexus turret, number 1, is getting dropped lower and lower. Kobbe is being pushed away by the Sand Soldiers. forced to jump onto the fountain and heal up. Odoamne now uses the Sanguine Pool. Ignite is going to take him out. There's the turnaround onto Wunder. He goes low, but he's not dead yet. Hextech Ultimatum comes down long enough to keep Wunder alive before he finally goes down. G2 Esports, the defending champions, take down Splyce, guarantee themselves a spot in the Copenhagens, and they're going to semi-finals.
G2 with a convincing win over Splyce. The early game was such a back and forth. Xerxe really did have G2's number, ganking left, right, and center. But it was G2 that came out on top. It was G2 with a decisive Baron play. And it was G2 that once they got that lead, they strangled Splyce with it.
That means Splyce finished third in the regular season. Congratulations, celebrations between the players, hugs, former teammates, maybe former friends, now that rivalries are developing.
We've now got 2 Danes guaranteed going to Copenhagen, and both Fnatic's Broxah and G2's Wunder. Oh, and Caps, of course.
Caps, that's right. Gonna be attending Copenhagen Roadshow at the end of the split. You can see Ocelot and Grabs on stage celebrating with the team.
You know,
it was a bumpy road.
Yeah, Division doubted the Ocelot buff, but apparently it's a thing. You know, that's why they win every finals, because Ocelot, the true king, is there.
I saw a fantastic message on Reddit earlier that said, G2 are undefeated in every playoffs they've attended. Now, of course, that's an obvious thing to say when they have 4 titles in a row.
For sure.
But last split started in the quarterfinals, almost got eliminated by last year's roster of Splyce, that 5-game epic. That was, in fact, the best series of the entire playoffs in summer. This time around, G2 will avoid them for now and set themselves up for a clash. 2nd seed, semi-finals, 2 weeks' time.
But we could see a rematch of this. If you just look at the seedings, let's say 3 and 4 come out of their quarterfinals of Splyce and Vitality, you would end up seeing Splyce versus G2 once more in the semi-final. And I'm sure so many people want to see that rematch.
Yeah, of course, it's important to remember. Splyce will play Roccat. There's 1 quarterfinal, and Vitality will play H2K.
Ooh, that's gonna. Oh, those
gonna be
interesting.
interesting
Ones.
Those are 2 explosive teams.
Because when Splyce go up against Roccat, you've got 2 teams that are a little bit more mid-late game focused, whereas Vitality H2K, I feel like you could have a lot of early game bloodshed with those.
You can.
Teams.
And also, when you look at those 2 teams, Vitality and H2K, they are explosive. They can be explosive in a good way,
yes.
and they can also self-implode,
yes.
as we have seen many times this split already.
And you've got 2 rather like young rosters in the sense, I say young, because I always think of Sheriff immediately, right? But you also think of how long it's been since Promiscu and some of the players have been to playoffs. Yes. And you go up against a very young roster in the form of Vitality. How will they perform in a best of 5 scenario? What kind of experiences will they have in being able to play in that kind of a format with that kind of pressure on the line?
Well, we're going to have to find out, of course. Quarterfinals and playoffs start next week. For now, though, we had the tiebreaker. We know our 6 playoff teams, and we know exactly how the matchups are going to play out. And for G2, it's going to be an interesting debate, interesting discussion around how good they are, how bumpy this road has been.
It certainly will be.
And I can't wait to discuss it a little bit further. But before that, we're going to chat to Law as well as PerkZ and Wunder.
Thank you very much, QuickShot. Indeed, very important victory here for G2. Guys, congratulations, PerkZ. What does it mean to you to know that you won today the Battle of the Bye?
Well, it's kind of a nice feeling. I was ready to go to quarterfinals after our last 2 weeks' performance, but today winning, like we played a lot, like with more confidence than usual. Like we were like pretty like decisive, even though like we're not that good yet in terms of like our knowledge and what we can actually do. But we were decisive with what we know and what we got, and it showed in our play today. And also, like I stopped inting. So that was like that's a good relief because yeah, the 2 games before that was really tough for me. So yeah, I'm really happy now. Yeah.
And Wunder, it must be also a good victory for you because you will be playing in front of your home crowd. What does it mean to you to know that you will be cheered by Danish players and crowd?
I haven't been to any. I haven't myself played in any event in Denmark yet, so it's going to be really exciting. I think like I've been in the Royal Arena before watching CS when it was held there, so it looked pretty awesome, and I can't honestly wait to play there. It's really exciting, yeah.
So you saw it already. How do you imagine it full with people cheering for G2 and for you?
Well, I hope they will cheer extra hard for us since I'm Danish. But I like honestly, I can't wait, and it's super relieving to actually make the playoff bye, because we have been really bad the last couple of weeks. Even though we had a really good like mid-split resurgence, where I think we had maybe too many expectations, and we forgot like the process in which like we have to keep improving and like not forget everything we've learned, and like we just tried to go too fast, I think, and that like ended up hurting us a bit.
You talked about your level, but I want to talk about the level of Europe in general, because I think the level was stacked this year and the standings have been pretty tight. How do you explain that?
Well, I'm not entirely sure. It's kind of an enigma for this split, because a lot of teams, like as you can see, the last day, all 10 teams could participate in playoffs, which has never happened before. And it's honestly, I'm not sure if it's because of teams or it's because of the meta changes so much. Like this split, there's been more like mid-split patches than ever before, and there was actually not small patches. There was like huge patches, and that shows that the team that they had, like let's say teams who were winning in the beginning of the split, they just stop winning and start losing in the middle of the split because there's a big meta change. So it's combining with teams not being good enough and knowing what they have to do with meta changes, and it just ends up in a stacked split where the teams are actually not so good, as we can see, but it just looks very close because everyone is kind of like equally bad. Besides Fnatic, they're a bit better than the rest, so yeah. It's kind of like that. I see it like that, yeah.
Okay, and talking a bit more about the meta, the patch will be 8.5 for the whole playoff series. What do you think of this patch so far, Wunder?
Well, this patch is for sure better than the last one. I think
How so?
It favored us a bit in the champ picks as well. Like I feel like I'm a bit more free. And honestly, like after learning the patch as well, I could probably have played like this last patch too. We just were not really sure about like how the buffs and nerfs like really affected our play. And it's true that the last patch was more bot lane focused, and it's still like arguably really bot lane focused, which we weren't really used to as a team. But I feel like I have some freedom right now since I've learned the patch, and we have learned like what our priorities are to really shine now.
And there was the Bannon nerf, of course, and we had the opportunity to see Swain in the top lane. What do you think about this champion since he was buffed?
Well, honestly, I've played Swain even before the buff, and I think it's pretty strong. I think a lot of EU top laners don't know how to play it, and they build wrong or they just choke on stage and play really bad. So, I mean, it was banned against me yesterday, and today, I mean, I went for the Camille instead. So I think Swain is really strong, and maybe I'll play it sometime.
All right, and last question for both of you, PerkZ. Who are you looking forward to face in semis?
Who can we actually face? Like,
Who are you looking forward to face? Who would you like to face?
I'm looking forward to face Fnatic in finals.
Oh, already?
Yeah.
So you see yourself in the finals already?
Yeah, I see myself in the finals for sure.
I think it's Splyce
How
and
about
Rocket
you?
we can face, no? Splyce
sorry?
and Rocket?
Splyce?
Splyce or Rocket?
Splyce and Rocket. Yeah, I don't mind either teams.
How about you?
Well, I mean, for semis, I wouldn't mind a rematch against Splyce. I think that's the most likely scenario anyways, since I don't think Rocket is really going to challenge Splyce in a quarterfinal. But yeah, I'm also looking forward to just playing, because semifinals is still going to be in Berlin here, and I'm just looking forward to Copenhagen and playing finals.
We'll see about that. Well, congratulations again to both of you for today. And to wrap up this day, let's send it over to Xerxe and the analyst for the EU LCS post-game lobby.